Well, hello again from here inside St James's Park. Now, I had hoped to bring you this video far sooner. I'd also told my wife I'd be back by 8 p.m. to help put the kids to bed. Yeah, fat chance after that. There was back page news stories to be written. There was an 800-word match report that could have done with 1,800 words. Now, the upshot is, when I've come out to record here in the stands, I'm the only person left inside St James's Park. Take a look at that. Wow, I love these places empty. And when this little bout of dizziness passes, I'll tell you what I thought of today's game. Right, I'm okay now, and where I'm going to start is by declaring that what we shouldn't be saying is Newcastle are back. That is the version of 22-23. That is the version of 23-24. It's not. This is a new vintage. This is a new version, and for me, this is better. Newcastle couldn't continue to play that way. Listen, they had an absolutely fantastic season when they finished fourth and qualified for the Champions League, and then took that on into large parts of the following campaign as well. But the point I make is that you cannot have intensity as your identity every week. Look where it led to with Newcastle. It led to that horrible season, absolutely decimated by injuries. What they've got now is something different. There's more authority. There's more control. There's a calmness. It's almost like they're playing on energy efficiency saving mode at times. Yes, they're still giving everything from minute 1 to minute 90, but it doesn't need their foot flat to the floor. And I like this version. This is evolution. This is what Eddie Howe talked about when he signed Sandro Tonali. That need to evolve. That was his words, and that is what we are seeing now into a team that kept the ball, were better with the ball, were more savvy, and that has come about because of one change. One change for me has changed everything, and that is Sandro Tonali going to the number 6. Just a few weeks ago, Newcastle were 12th in the table. The midfield was bouncing about. Eddie Howe was trying different combinations, different players, different positions. Moving Tonali to the 6, they're now unbeaten since he has done that. They're up to 5th in the table. They've won the last 4, and they just look so much better collectively and individually. And yes, there are so many different players we can talk about, so many different components, but what is the one key change? That is Tonali going to the base of that midfield. He patrols and he controls. He sets the tone. Not only offers so much more going forward, and we'll talk about the actual mechanics of how he provides that, but also going back over as well. Just look at the first goal. Who won the ball at the onset of the move? Sandro Tonali, who had won it 30 seconds earlier. When Eddie Howe compared him to Andrea Pirlo a couple of days ago, now Eddie's just said it wasn't me who compared him to Pirlo, Craig, it was you who offered that likeness. I said, yeah, but you agreed with it, and you repeated the name back to us, which he did say the funny side of, but nonetheless, it gave us a nice headline. But what Eddie said on that occasion was, he is Andrea Pirlo, but with the engine to boot, with that defensive awareness, putting out fires was the phrase he used. He put out a couple of fires there in the first half, and one of them lit the flames at the other end when Anthony Gordon went and put the ball in the back of the net. Tonali is just fantastic. I love him in there in the 6. One user on X said to me afterwards, it makes a difference from you saying Tonali's S-H-I-T-E. I never said that. I just said he didn't look suited and wasn't playing well in the number 8 position. I called for him to go to 6, and listen, it's Eddie who's moved him there, not me, of course. I hope that doesn't come across in that way, but there had to be a change for Tonali's own personal circumstance and a change for what it did to the team. And wow, I keep on coming back to that word, but what a change it has made. And I just love how they're going about it with minimum fuss. Yes, out of the 4 games the past week, the 4 wins, that's probably the fussiest of them all. And I thought they had to be better in spells than they have been in previous games. Villa weren't bad, but didn't they do it just with absolute confidence and composure? And I wouldn't go as far as to use the word ease this time, because Aston Villa are a good side, but again, they've taken it to a different level, a new level, and this is the version that has to stay. This is the version that takes you into the top 4 and the version that keeps you there. Now, there was one quote from Eddie afterwards that I thought was really good, and I noted it down straight away, and he said, "We are winning strongly, not by good fortune." I would go along with that. They're in control, and it's because of Tonali. He is the man with his finger on the button. He is controlling himself. He is controlling teammates, he's controlling the opposition. By extension, he is controlling the game as well. There is that confidence about Newcastle. Yes, they did get a little bit of luck there today. We'll come back to John Duran's red card, but even with 11v11, you felt you were watching a team who are going to go on and win the game. And the thing as well, and this is really important, the scorers, the goals are being shared around. In the last 3 matches now, I think out of the 10 goals, that's 6 different scorers. And when you've got that, that gives problems to the opposition. Anthony Gordon there hasn't scored for a few. He pops up and puts one in the top corner. Joelinton bookends it at the very end there. Tonali didn't score today, but he chipped in with a couple last week. Alexander Isak looks like he's going to score every week, 7 in 5 now. I'm just going to go through the entire team here. We're going to get the merit stars as well, by the way. I can't believe there's one name who I actually haven't put in the 3, given I spent the entire 90 minutes saying to my colleague next to me how good he was, this guy, and he's been one of the players of the season. Doesn't make the 3, but that is where Newcastle are at right now. And I come back to that phrase, collectively and individually, they are functioning. And it's at the base of the midfield where they've got the conductor, Sandro Tonali. And around him there is now a settled team. The one comparison I will make with 22-23, 23-24 is that when Eddie Howe was happy, and sometimes this was used as a criticism against him, but when he was happy and he felt Newcastle were playing well, he didn't make any changes. He just named the same 11 week after week. Well, he's in that position there now. Yes, there's 1 or 2 little tweaks here, but when a manager knows his best 11, I always think for a team that is a good place to be in. And with Tonali, the first name on the team sheet in number 6, again, I'm coming back to the same things, but around that, everything, it's just he's the guy at the centre of the wheel. And because of it, at times Newcastle right now are on cruise control. They're not having to go hell for leather from start to finish, minute 1 to minute 90 every week. The players are playing in their best position and just everything looks so much better because of it. And we're seeing the Eddie Howe downstairs there now, who looks so much happier in himself, you know, because of that. A few weeks ago, you looked at Eddie, especially after the defeat down at Brentford, and you worried he and the team were taking a little bit of a battering then, and a lot was said and written about conditions off the field. Listen, some of those concerns, that still exists. They haven't gone away. While with us just downstairs there now, the manager's got that bounce and that spring and that twinkle in his eye and that belief in himself, in his team, absolutely 100% back. Now, okay, what happened in the game itself? Buckle up, right, here we go. Well, Newcastle take the lead after 80 seconds, and I've already mentioned this, but it's Tonali winning the ball on halfway, gives it to Bruno, helps it on to Joelinton, there's the midfield 3, by the way, in turn onto Anthony Gordon. Now, I've been a little bit, I'm not going to use the word critical, it's an observation of Anthony Gordon in recent weeks that he's been back to a level slightly below his very best. And the reason I say that is because he wasn't really converting on those goals and those chances. Well, today he did, and Eddie Howe revealed. Now, this is what I love about Anthony Gordon. I've sat down with him, I did that big interview with him earlier in the year, and it's that dedication to his trade to make himself the best he can possibly be. And Eddie Howe has just revealed to us that he's really been working on his finishing, on his shooting, and boy, did we see that there. Chops inside onto his right foot. A word for Lewis Hall, the overlap run on the outside left there, that causes Matty Cash, gives him a little bit of doubt. Cash steps off and looks more at Hall than he is at Gordon, but what a mistake that was. Gordon shifts onto his right and puts it into the top corner. But don't forget the source of that, the 3 in that midfield combining with Gordon's finish at the end of it and getting the ball quicker upfield. How often have I spoken about that in recent weeks? Now, I'm not going to criticise Bruno, but he plays the 6 differently to Tonali. Tonali takes 1 touch, Bruno takes 3, but that's what we're seeing now. It's speed and everything, but by having Tonali in there, it's almost infectious with Bruno as well. He's moving the ball on quicker. There's just that urgency, that efficiency, that accuracy that's improved. That output, that attacking output from the midfield 3, and the players in those 4 positions are getting the ball in space. They're getting the ball quicker and they're getting the ball in better areas. And we saw that with Anthony Gordon there. And that sets the tone. That's 1-0. Now, after that, I didn't agree with everything Unai Emery said post-match, and we'll come to that, but I did agree with it when he said that Aston Villa responded well, and there's a 10 or 15-minute spell where they looked like a good team. Lucas Digne takes a free kick. It's a good save from Martin Dubravka. The ball's lost in midfield, one of the rare occasions when Newcastle did cough up possession, and it's Dan Burn who sweeps up and puts out that fire. But then the game, it doesn't change, I'll say it changes, but Newcastle are undoubtedly aided by the red card. Now, wow, the red card. We've just listened to Unai Emery speak for 5 or 10 minutes downstairs there about VAR and how it had to intervene. Well, I don't know if he's quite misunderstood the rules, because VAR did look at it and VAR didn't deem it to be an obvious error by Anthony Taylor. I wouldn't even say it was an obvious error. I just think the referee got the call right, and VAR's looked at it and determined that there was intent there, determined that it was violent conduct, and that, for me, is right. Now, Emery has said to us that he doesn't think the stamp was intentional. He thought that the red card was really harsh. But for me, John Duran has got his foot. If you watch the replay back, there's the coming together, Shea wins the ball, Duran goes up in the air, and he's got his foot at one point, 3 or 4 foot in the air. Now, he's got a choice. And if you're a professional footballer, you should be in control of your feet. If you're not in control of your feet and what they do, you shouldn't be a footballer. He chooses to bring it down, for me, on the backside of Shea and then runs it up into his spine. Now, yes, the contact wasn't necessarily hard, but that's not the point, you know. It's the intent. It's putting his studs in a position whereby it does endanger an opponent's safety. And for me, it was deliberate. Someone set me down in the press room when we were debating it. Well, you know, where else can he put his foot? Where else can he put his foot? You know, I've had two hands free now, one's got a selfie stick, you know, put my head in my hands, he could have put his foot in the turf. That was the obvious conclusion you draw from watching the video back. And the majority of folk down in the press room, when we debated it at half time, we debated it at full time, we all come down on the side of it being a red card. Some said it was soft. Well, yeah, if you watched football in the 70s and 80s, perhaps it was soft, but that for me all day is a red card. I think there's enough time, there's enough distance for him to do something different with his foot. He chooses not to do it, and for me, he chose a red card on the back of that. It was stupid. And for Emery to come out and say VAR should have intervened, well, no, they looked at it, of course they looked at it. That's just the protocol of it, and they've deemed the referee not to have made a clear and obvious error. Not just that, he made the right call. Now, what that then led to on the touchline and in the tunnel at half time was some pretty angry scenes just down below us there. In the immediate aftermath of the red card, there was an incident between Unai Emery and Jason Tindall, where Tindall seemed to be doing that right, you know, when you have an argument with your missus and they take the higher ground, they just tell you to be quiet. Yeah, he was just telling Emery to shut up. It's quite annoying when someone does that. And it clearly riled Emery and his staff, because then it spilled over into the tunnel at half time. Jason Tindall became involved, what was described as a 20-man melee. Eddie Howe just confirmed that to us downstairs, and Tindall and a Villa analyst were sent off. Now, Eddie's defended his players. He said, you know, they were just standing up for what they believed to be true and protecting themselves. But at the same time, the FA are sure to take a look at this. And listen, it's probably a distraction Newcastle can do without, but nonetheless, at the same time, you guys and me have called for a return of that nastiness, those dark arts, that collective, that band of brothers. Well, if they're all jumping in for their assistant manager at half time, perhaps that is no bad thing. Now, it was only 1-0 at half time, but it should have been 2. It should perhaps even have been 3. There was a goal disallowed just before half time there when Alexander Isak overruns the ball. And this speaks to Newcastle sharing the goal scores around. I thought it was Bruno who'd put it in. My colleagues tell me it was Joelinton. I noted Bruno in my first match report. Apologies if you did read that. But no, Isak overruns it. And what was the frustration there when you watched the replay back was, I don't think he had to. It wasn't as if he was stretching or he ran out of time or distance. He seemed to have the space and the time to make that pass without the ball crossing the touchline. But nonetheless, it didn't cost Newcastle, and that's a rare lapse from Alexander Isak, you've got to admit. But that could have been 2-0, and it then should have been 2-0 just before the break. And Tonali, I'm going to say, misses the chance. It's a good save from Emi Martinez, even though Tonali's probably got enough time and space to find the back of the net. But how does that chance come about? It comes from Bruno pressing inside the area, pulling it back to Tonali. Now, if they're in the roles reversed, that I honestly don't think that happens. I just think the combination between the two and where they're currently playing is getting more from them. Bruno in the 8, we saw it down at Ipswich last week, getting into the penalty area, hassling, harrying, pressing, winning the ball back. And isn't that perhaps better for his physical shape? Now, it's no secret that Bruno came back out of condition at the start of the season. You know, we spoke about this. He used the phrase pulling the caravan. It looked like the opening 2 weeks of the season, especially Southampton on the opening day. He was pulling 2 caravans. In fact, I think it was referee Anthony Taylor on the opening day actually ran past Bruno during a recovery run. But being in the 8, he's having to run further, he's having to run harder, he's having to run faster. And isn't that better? For his physical condition, he's been absolutely fantastic. And he was again there today, and for that chance was a brilliant example of it. Tonali has the shot. And again, it's a good save by Martinez. I'll give Tonali a pass on this occasion. So it is only 1-0 at half time. They come out for the second half. And again, Villa have a little bit of a 5-minute spell where you think Newcastle might just need this second goal. But isn't that what we like about it? When they're able to up that tempo with Tonali with his finger on the button, they're able to do it. And it was just a brilliant team goal that brought about the second goal on the 59th minute. Tonali was involved on the right. There's a few passes exchange. It goes infield, it goes outfield, and eventually comes to Bruno, and he's in the 8th position. Bruno doesn't make the pass he makes if he's further back in the 6. He gets it about 5 yards outside the penalty box there at the Leazer's end and just threads the most brilliant, wonderful pass in behind for Jacob Murphy to run onto. He's got the awareness, the assist king where he is right now. Rather than shooting, he's got the awareness just to roll the cross box, and Alexander Isak puts it in. An easy finish from 4-5 yards out. But what a brilliant team goal. How many passes were involved in it? The movement, the cuteness of that ball in behind, then the awareness and the positioning of the creator and the scorer. It's just a brilliant goal, and the 2-0, that's it. That's game over. There's then a couple of disallowed goals that I want to mention just quickly, and there's one where Jacob Murphy goes through on goal, and I think he's got it in his head now that he is this creator supreme, and he is right now, don't get me wrong, but at the risk of sounding like John Anderson following that famous, or rather infamous incident down at Watford a few seasons back involving Jacob Murphy, funny enough, just put it in the back of the net. He goes through, and rather than shooting, he checks and he tries to find Alexander Isak. Isak is eventually offside. Newcastle should have made it 3. at that point. There's then another disallowed goal a little bit later on, and it comes from it. It's a brilliant Sandro Tonali ball in behind, for Lewis Hall twice. He did that, and it's eventually cleared, and it hits Bruno quite where Bruno's supposed to go. I didn't actually think it looked like it hit his arm. It must have done, because VAR have ruled it out. They've had a look at it, but Bruno, putting himself again, Bruno wouldn't have been in the goal mouth charging that down if he was playing in the 6th position. So he's unfortunate it doesn't go to 3, but it eventually does, and that's in the 90th minute. And this just sums up how sick Villa were by this point. It's actually Amadou Onana who provides the assist for Joelinton, passes it straight to him. Joelinton intercepts, strides into the area, and there at the Leazer's end puts it in the top corner. And what a brilliant finish. And doesn't that just show the confidence he is playing with? A player for me who started the season brilliantly against Southampton, then went completely off the boil, and his performance was really symptomatic of where Newcastle were at, what he's rediscovering, that swagger and that pomp and that majesty about him. And we didn't think we'd be saying that a few weeks ago, and I thought he was lucky to stay in the team. It's a brilliant finish to cap off a brilliant performance from him and from the team on the whole. Now, the merit stars, I'm going to go in ascending order, then I'm going to revisit 3 players who I dare say you guys will be screaming at the screen saying, why have you left them out? Well, the one, that goes to Bruno Guimaraes, and for all the reasons I've just explored. He just shows that class in that number 8 position, allied now to physicality as well, bursting into the box, getting on the end of chances, creating chances, putting pressure on defenders. His game now is unrecognisable from what it was in the 6th. I'm not saying he played badly in there, but I do think he's better suited to being where he is, and today was just another fantastic display. And the pick of it all was that pass for the 2nd goal. There's probably only Bruno and Tonali on the pitch who can make that ball. It's just absolutely tremendous, and for him to be part now of that functioning, effective, controlling midfield, but not being in the position where we thought he was perhaps wedded to and suited to for the rest of his career, to be removed from that 6 and to having embraced the role. Well, he's playing like a playmaker, he's playing like a captain. Bruno is in such a good place now, but he's only worthy of 1 star, and that's because of the 2 who I've got in front of him. And the 2 stars, well, they go to Joelinton. I've already touched on this, but started the season brilliantly, got his new contract towards the back end last year, and I've always said that when Joelinton ticks, when he's in the mood, I always think the team is better for it. I think he's got the greatest impact on all of those around him. I've changed my mind now as to who that player is, but nonetheless, when Joelinton is like that, others do feed off it. And the thing he's doing now differently, and we saw it for the first goal, he's carrying the ball with confidence. He's taking Newcastle up the pitch. If Joe Willock isn't in the team, Joelinton is the one who should really assume that role. He did it for the first goal. He did it again not long after. And at the end of it, he's actually finding the passes too. The one criticism you would have of him, he gets himself in some really good positions in that final execution, be it the pass, the finish, the cross, whatever it is. It isn't there. Well, today, he's produced the assist for Anthony Gordon, and then he's produced his own brilliant finish at the end there. So Joelinton, a really worthy recipient of the 2. Well, the 3, and no prizes for guessing, they go to Sandro Tonali. And I wouldn't even say today has been his very best out of what we've seen from him in recent weeks, but I just think we've got to continue to acknowledge the difference he's making. Never get bored of that. I still thought today he was the best player. He set that tone from the off, not because of what he did with the ball, it was what he did in winning it back, and then just those quick little passes, just popping them off. Yes, he's got those balls when he can spray them 40, 50 yards. He's got the passes in behind full backs. He's got all of that, but he's also got what Eddie spoke about earlier in that week. Win it, get it, give it. Give it to Bruno. Let him go and do something. Give it to Joelinton. Let him then carry it up the field. But he's also got that other side as well. There was one pass in the first half. I was sat with Mark Douglas in the press box just down there, and I said, I love that. It didn't really come to anything, but he got it just at the base of the halfway line there, and he played it. He took out 3 players. He played it through the centre circle. Bruno didn't play that ball when he was in there. Tonali doesn't. Perhaps it's only Tonali can do it from that domain. I come back to the word, the conductor, and he was just fantastic today. Everything about him. There was a little spell where not everything came off from. There were a couple of little loose balls, but the fact he's even trying those passes in the first place from that deep position has changed the whole dynamic of the team. And that was the word Eddie used afterwards as well, dynamic. And it comes back to Tonali. And I thought today he was outstanding again. 3 stars. Now, the players who didn't make the podium, and the first one I'm going to come to is a player who, for me, if you are picking a player of the season at this halfway stage, I would go with Dan Burn. I thought he was brilliant there today. I can't believe he's not included in the 3, given I was saying to colleagues throughout the entire match and making notes on my screen just how good he was. It started with that big interception early on, and he did not put a foot wrong. Now listen, you go back to last season, and there were times he was getting a lot of criticism at left back, and you just looked at him, I think he's 33 now, and wonder, are his days as that Premier League player, are they perhaps coming to an end in terms of being a regular starter? Well, no, personally, I never thought that. I always believed that his best position, he was out of position at left back. He is a left-sided centre-half. We've seen that this season. Eddie Howe now has got a huge decision to make. What does he do when Sven Botman comes back? Because Dan Burn is imperious every week. His performance just isn't dipping of late. Yes, he hasn't made the top 3 there. He no doubt would and should. For others of you, it's not to take anything away from him. He's just playing every week now at a level of a 7.5 in 8. I thought he was very good again today. So to Dan Burn, an honourable mention. And how can there not be for those 2 other scorers as well? Alexander Isak and Anthony Gordon. Gordon was brilliant in the first half. He really had the beating of Matty Cash. He faded a little bit, but again, doesn't that just come back to players being savvy, to conserving that energy? Gordon went off there towards the end, but then that means he'll be back at full throttle for the start down at Manchester United on Monday. And that's clever, that's clever. Collectively, Alexander Isak was similar. He wasn't in the game throughout the day. He had little quiet spells in the first half. But wow, when he gets it, he's just so electric. Those quick feet dancing along the touchline, making mugs of opponents, always showing for it, just looking happy, looking in the mood. And when you've got Gordon and Isak and that mood combined in that place, doesn't that just make a team so much more dangerous and potent, especially when they're putting the ball in the back of the net as well? So mentions too for Gordon and Isak, and throw Lewis Hall in as well. Another really solid game from Lewis Hall. And while I'm at it, why not put Fabian Schär and Kieran Trippier in there too? Is anybody I've left out? Jacob Murphy on the right got another assist. There you go. And Martin Dubravka made a big save. And the subs who all came on, well, they did pretty good too. Now all of this leaves the team and the squad and the manager and the fan base and everything around the club in a pretty strong, confident position going down to Manchester United on Monday. They've been beaten again tonight. Would you believe? And if Newcastle can go there and make it 5 wins on the spin, that would put them 10 points ahead of Manchester United at the halfway stage. And I would say that would be Manchester United out of it in terms of coming back into it and going ahead of Newcastle. So that is one contender. You'd still say a club like Manchester United should be a contender for that top 5. That is probably one rival put to bed. Spurs have been beaten here today. Nottingham Forest are ahead of Newcastle. You would probably expect them, who beat Spurs of course, you'd expect Newcastle to still finish ahead of them in the table this season. So all of a sudden, they're only 6 points off second, and that is quite incredible given where they were a few weeks ago and all of the noise there was around the manager and players to have put together that revival and to have done it in a way as well that doesn't feel as if they're just getting by. You would commit probably for the first time today to them having turned a corner. But on the opposite side of that, 2 little caveats to put to it. They've still got to go away to places like Manchester United and Tottenham and Arsenal and all those games coming up and get that big statement win, that big statement performance on the road. 3 of the 4 victories have come here at St James's, and that one was only against Ipswich last week, who haven't won at home all season. So there is that small caveat. And 2 as well, and not to be negative, but it still is potentially fragile. If there were an injury to Isak, if there were an injury to Tonali, perhaps more so, what then would happen? Would they revert to the team of 5 or 6 weeks ago? Well, let's hope it doesn't come to that, but those are still questions to be answered. But nonetheless, where they are right now is going down to Manchester United after the weekend, and you would absolutely, if you're pushing me for predictions, there'll be no preview video before then. Eddie Howe isn't having a press conference, so I'll get it out the way now. Newcastle will beat Manchester United on Monday night. I'm sure of that. One team's a good team, one team's not very good. And wow, would that put them in such a strong position going into January and the second half of the season to kick on. And for me now, I said this in the preview video the other day, the aim, it has to be that top 5. It looks like England probably will get that extra place for the coefficient with regard to Champions League qualification. But why not go for 4th? Just make sure of it. They're in that good a position right now. Well, that's it for me for now, guys. Just as the lights go out in this place, that is quite fitting. I've spoken for long enough now. My voice is going hoarse. I've missed bedtime with the kids, so I might as well go to the Trent and edit this video. Thank you so much as well for the comments on the video I did before Christmas Day. The amount of you guys who came back and wished me Merry Christmas and said really nice things, that is so appreciated. I can't get that across enough. I hope you all had a lovely day yesterday, but no matter how good yesterday was, I dare say for all you guys, today it was even better. And we'll finish it with one last scan of a half-lit St James's Park. Wow, what a sight this is. I started the video dizzy. I'm going to finish it dizzy too. So There you go, guys. Please hit like, comment, subscribe. Tell me what you think. Did I get the merit stars wrong? Where did Newcastle go from here? Should it be the top 4? I limited it a little bit the other day to the top 5. Are they good enough to go straight back into the Champions League? Tell me what you think. Thank you so much for watching. I'm down at Old Trafford. I can't wait. Another big night await. It's never anything but with Newcastle United right now. Okay, guys. Take care. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.